Hello, welcome back to Talking Europe. EU leaders must have breathed a sigh of relief when the results of the Romanian presidential election was announced on the night of May the 18th. Nicusor Dan, who had campaigned on a platform of pro-Western stability, defeated the firebrand populist Eurosceptic George Simion. Indeed, Dan achieved a stunning reversal after heavily losing the first round. But Simion still won more than 5 million votes, or around 46%, showing a deep fracture in Romanian society. Poland, which holds the second round of its presidential election on June the 1st, is similarly fractured. The hard-right Law and Justice Party, well known for its run-ins with Brussels when it was in power, made a strong showing in the first round, with its preferred candidate, Karol Nawrocki, coming in only slightly behind the front-runner, Rafał Trzaskowski. Well, we're going to look at the appeal of these anti-establishment forces in the former communist Eastern Bloc countries, with three MEPs. Nicolae Ștefănuță is a Romanian Green MEP and a Vice President of the European Parliament. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Also here, Michał Wawrzykiewicz, a Polish MEP from the European People's Party, the group which includes Prime Minister Donald Tusk's Civic Platform. Welcome to you.
Hello.
And also with me, Martin Hojsík, a Slovak MEP from the Renew Europe group and also a Vice President of the European Parliament. Welcome to you.
Pleased to be here.
Martin Hojsík, I'd just like your outsider's view on these two elections in Poland and Romania. What did you take away from the results so far in both?
The results so far are showing that, and this is important in Romania, the majority of people are pro-European. Yet, indeed, there is a danger that part of the population gives in to massive wave of, let's be honest, hybrid war-supported populism, which is not to say that, there are not challenges that we need to address, but this is something where, for me, it's important to signal that Europe has a really strong support in its central and eastern part.
I mean, Nicolae Ștefănuță, the fact is the AUR, the Alliance for the Union of Romanians, went from under 10% in the 2020 elections to, as I said, nearly 46%. That must be, no?
No, because they only scored 18 in the parliamentary elections in the fall. However, the candidate scored 41 in the first round. That doesn't mean that everybody who supported him was an our fan. There was a lot of confusion. I liked Martin's assessment that it was a hybrid war supported extreme right, because it was. People they wanted the change candidate. He was able to portray himself as a change candidate because inflation, a high deficit, the insecurity about war, all of these contributed to the state of mind of people. Also hatred for the government in power. He managed to portray himself as the change candidate, at the same time being nothing but a dangerous Russia-supported decoy.
Michał Wawrzykiewicz, you must be pretty concerned and worried about the result in Poland from the first round.
Yes, we are concerned, that's true, but we still believe that the great signal from Romania will encourage our voters, democratic voters, pro-European voters, to choose finally Rafał Trzaskowski as the president of Poland. I think this is also something that the whole Europe is waiting for, because we are on the eastern flank in the face of the threat from Russia. It is very important who rules in these eastern countries like Poland and Romania. And I still believe that this democratic bunch will prevail and will win this election at the end.
I mentioned to your colleague the growth of the AUR, and we saw a rise as well in the far right in Poland. If you add up the votes for Sławomir Mencen and Grzegorz Braun, it's 21%. That's a pretty startling fact.
Yes, it is indeed, but we still believe that we are able to mobilize those who stayed at home during the first round. I mean, our voters, the voters of the Democratic Coalition from 2023. We count that it is still 2 million people to be mobilized to take part in the second round and finally win this election for democratic candidates.
Mobilization is key to all of this, isn't it, Martin Hojsík?
Indeed. And what you saw 2 years ago by now in the Slovak last year in the Slovak presidential elections was exactly two candidates, one more pro-European, the other one not anti-European, but kind of less so, the current president. For the second round, he managed to win the support of the anti-European extremes. And this is proved decisive to his victory, but he himself is not anti-European. And this is something which, for me, it's a signal that yes, the anti-European forces can create substantial problems, but also this is a really strong signal that the large majority of the population in the region is very strongly pro-EU. What it doesn't mean is a carte blanche for us politicians. We have to actually address the problems that the people are facing. We have to address the high prices of energy, which honestly have been caused by our dependency on fossil fuels from Russia. We have to address the very fairness on the social media, because it's basically just subject to, and the daily problems of the people.
So how does that fit with Nicusor Dan's agenda? Do you think he's going to be able to work with a new coalition to achieve those things that your colleague is talking about?
He's already shown he can do that as a mayor of Bucharest. The finances, when he took over, were in deep problems, as the country's finances are at the moment, with 9% deficit, crazy spending. So I think he will manage to do that first. I think that's what he's aiming at. And then to stabilize the borders, our security question. So he will be an ally. Actually, we were looking at Poland as the way to go, you know. Moments before the elections, we felt like the pariah of Europe. I'm very glad that we managed to mobilize so many people. 2.5 million young people went to the vote, first time in history, 60% increase. So there's something we can take from this, is that this is a war against every single state of the Union. It's against Europe, and it's against the European Union by taking apart state by state. So my message to the Polish voters is to replicate what the Romanians have done and defend their values, because this is not a time to joke around.
Yeah, exactly.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, we need to remember where we are in Poland, that we are after 8 years of massive destruction of the rule of law system of the whole country by law and justice. And we are right now in the process of reinstatement of everything, especially of the rule of law. So we need a strong, stable president who is pro-democratic, pro-European, and I strongly believe that we will follow the Romanian example and we will win this election, which is, as I said, very important for the whole Europe, because we need a stable Europe, very united, very common Europe, to be able to fight against Putin in the future.
So if the Law and Justice Party, though, comes back to power through the presidency, then all the legal reforms are basically, you can say goodbye to that, I'm guessing.
That's for sure, because what President Duda was doing last 1.5 years, he was blocking every reforms done by the government. So potentially Karol Nawrocki would do the same. He's much worse than Andrzej Duda for Polish politics. He would block everything, and he would do everything to help law and justice to get back to power in 27.
Martin Heusecker, you were talking about these signals being sent in the presidential elections in your country, and there was another signal sent recently by Prime Minister Robert Fico, who was the only EU leader at the victory parade in Moscow on May the 9th. Do you think Fico was just trying to poke the EU, or is he kind of doing something that resonates with voters in terms of their actual views on Russia?
His voters are actually diminishing. If you can see, Slovak government was part of the agreement on the new package of sanctions against Russia. So this is where Fico plays a game to the voters that he has, which he's been jumping on the victims of the radicalizing the disinformation war, preaching hatred towards anything Europe. And then when Slovakia has problem like the foot and mouth disease coming with a pound, please, give us money. We really need the money for agriculture. And he's trying to do it also to cover up the fact that Slovakia as a country is simply not functioning, that the hospitals are crumbling on the patients' heads, that, there is a new wave of corruption scandal where his cronies have misused the European funds, the fact that our bridges are falling apart. And, when you do a show like Going to Moscow, then the media are reporting about the only EU leader in Moscow, not so much about the fact that, the state is falling apart and his government is not able to govern.
Any final thoughts, Nicolae, on this whole question of, populist backlash in Eastern Europe? Can we generalize about a trend?
I think what we do in Europe matters. One phenomenon that was in the case of Romanians was that they felt as citizens as a second class, because of the Schengen rejection by Austria. So that sent waves through the diaspora and a huge patriotic, nationalistic backlash. So when decisions like that matter, we need to really, really think of what the consequences can be. And secondly, that we need to fight hard against the right extreme. I have the impression sometimes that the democratic Western parties, they behave very much with gloves, and then they lose because the right extreme use any kind of weapons, disinformation, TikTok, etc. We need to regulate platforms. We need to be stronger than them. We need to be out there communicating to people using the most modern techniques, just like the extreme right is doing, and we need to keep winning.
We'll end it there. Thank you to all three of my guests, Martin Hojsik, Nicolae Ștefănută, and Michał Wawrzykiewicz. Thanks for watching this episode on Talking Europe.